Have you ever felt that strange sensation in your chest? That unexplainable pressure that appears right before something significant is about to change in your life? That moment when you know, deep in your bones, that you're standing at a crossroads between who you've been and who you're about to become. If you're feeling that right now, as you're watching this video, then you need to understand something crucial. This isn't coincidence. You're here because something within you has awakened. Let me ask you something even more direct. How long have you been walking this path, feeling like you're so close to breaking through, yet somehow the breakthrough never quite arrives? You've been working harder than anyone around you realizes, putting in hours that nobody sees, making sacrifices that go unnoticed, pushing forward while that quiet voice inside keeps whispering that you deserve more, that there's something greater waiting for you. Yet the pathway to reach it remains frustratingly unclear. Has this ever happened to you? That feeling of being stuck between knowing you're meant for abundance and actually experiencing it in your reality? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Here's what most people don't understand about wealth multiplication. It's not about working harder. It's not about finding the perfect strategy or the secret formula that everyone's been hiding from you. The truth is far more profound and, honestly, far more accessible than you might think. Wealth multiplication begins with an internal shift, a transformation that happens at the level of your identity, your vibration, your very essence as a being. And this transformation doesn't happen randomly. It happens when you're ready. Think about it for a moment. There are people all around you who seem to effortlessly attract opportunities, money, success, and abundance. They're not necessarily smarter than you. They're not working 20-hour days. They haven't discovered some mystical secret that the rest of humanity doesn't have access to. What they have is something different. Something that operates beneath the surface of their conscious actions. They've aligned themselves with a frequency, an energetic state that naturally draws wealth toward them like a magnet draws iron. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely shift how you understand your relationship with abundance. The moment you're experiencing right now, that pressure in your chest, that knowing that something is different, that sensation that you're on the edge of a transformation, this is your readiness manifesting. Your consciousness has evolved to a point where you can finally receive what you've been preparing for, perhaps your entire life. And here's where it gets interesting. The reason wealth hasn't fully manifested in your life until now isn't because you're not capable, isn't because you're not worthy, and certainly isn't because the universe has somehow forgotten about you. The reason is actually far more empowering than that. The reason is that you weren't ready yet. And I know that might sound frustrating, even confronting, but hear me out, because this is actually the most liberating truth you'll encounter on your journey to abundance. You see, wealth isn't just sitting out there waiting to be grabbed by whoever works the hardest or wants it the most. Wealth operates on a completely different level, one that has everything to do with who you are internally, not just what you do externally. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine yourself walking alongside an enormous river, brilliant and infinite, its surface catching the light in ways that seem almost otherworldly. This river has been flowing beside you your entire life. It's the river of wealth, but not wealth in the superficial sense of just money sitting in a bank account. This river represents something far more profound. It's the energy that sits behind money, the vibration that naturally attracts opportunities into your orbit, the identity that causes doors to swing open before you even knock, the internal fire that takes what seems impossible and makes it inevitable. You've been walking alongside this river for years, maybe decades. You've watched it flow. You've seen other people dive in and float effortlessly downstream, carried by its current toward everything they desire. Meanwhile, you've been on the shore, working yourself to exhaustion, trying every strategy, reading every book, following every piece of advice, and yet you're still just barely touching the edge of the water. Your fingers get wet, you catch glimpses of what's possible, but you never fully submerge. You never allow yourself to be carried by that current, and here's the hidden truth that changes everything. If this resonated with you, go ahead and subscribe. This channel is for people who are serious about transforming their relationship with wealth, and every video is designed to help you elevate your consciousness and multiply your abundance. It's not that the river rejected you. It's not that you weren't good enough or smart enough or connected enough to enter. The real revelation is this: you cannot enter the river of wealth until your identity is ready to sustain its current. Think about what that means. If you jumped into a rushing river without knowing how to swim, without having developed the strength and skill to navigate its power, what would happen? You'd drown. You'd be overwhelmed. The same applies to wealth and abundance. If massive opportunities, resources and money flowed into your life right now, this very moment, but your internal identity, your sense of self, your energetic frequency wasn't calibrated to receive and sustain it, what would happen? It would slip through your fingers. It would create chaos. It would disappear as quickly as it arrived. This is the journey that so many people miss entirely. They focus all their energy on external strategies, on tactics and techniques, on the latest trend or investment or business model, but they completely ignore the fundamental transformation that needs to happen within. They try to force their way into abundance without ever becoming the person who naturally belongs there. And that's why they struggle. That's why the breakthrough never comes. That's why the wealth they do manage to create never feels stable or sustainable. But you, right now, watching this, feeling that pressure in your chest, that knowing that something is shifting, you're different. Your consciousness has made a leap. Something within you has evolved, matured, expanded to a point where you can finally handle what's coming. Your vibration has shifted even if you can't quite put your finger on how or when it happened. And deep inside, perhaps in a place beyond words, something has silently declared, I am ready. Now, I want to go even deeper into this transformation because understanding your readiness is just the beginning. There's a specific process, a journey of identity reconstruction that determines not just whether abundance flows into your life, but whether you can hold it, multiply it, and use it to create the impact you're meant to have in this world. Write in the comments, I'm ready for this transformation, if these words are resonating with something true inside you. Let me show you something that most people never take the time to truly examine. Close your eyes for just a moment, and when you open them, I want you to imagine standing in front of a very special kind of mirror. But this isn't an ordinary mirror that shows you your physical appearance, the clothes you're wearing, or whether your hair is in place. No, this mirror is far more revealing and honestly, far more important. This is a mirror that reflects your financial identity. It shows your true relationship with wealth, your economic frequency, the energetic signature you're broadcasting into the universe every single moment of every single day. What do you see when you look into this mirror? Be brutally honest with yourself right now, because this is where the real transformation begins. Do you see someone filled with doubt, someone who questions whether they really have what it takes, someone who's carrying decades of limiting beliefs and inherited stories about money? Or do you see someone on the absolute edge of a massive, powerful, irreversible discovery? Someone whose entire reality is about to shift in ways they can barely comprehend right now? This distinction matters more than you realize, because here's the hidden truth that's been operating in your life, whether you were conscious of it or not. Wealth has never been a destination. It's not some far-off place you arrive at after years of struggle and sacrifice. Wealth is a reflection, It's the mirror image of who you've decided to be at the deepest level of your being. It reflects your internal vibration, the frequency you're operating on, the identity you've claimed as your own. Think about the people you know who seem to struggle financially their entire lives. Many of them are incredibly intelligent. They read books, attend seminars, study techniques, learn strategies, implement systems. They're not lazy, they're not stupid. They're working incredibly hard, sometimes harder than people who are financially abundant. So why do they remain stuck? Why does wealth continue to elude them despite all their efforts and knowledge? The answer is uncomfortable but essential. They never transformed their identity. They accumulated information without ever shifting who they are at their core. You can learn every wealth-building strategy on the planet, but if your internal identity still believes that money is scarce, that rich people are somehow morally corrupt, that you don't deserve abundance, that financial success means betraying your values or your background, then none of those strategies will work for you long term. You might create temporary wins, brief moments of success, but they'll always collapse back to match your true identity, your actual frequency. This is why some people can lose everything and rebuild their fortune within years, while others win the lottery and end up bankrupt within a few years. It's not about the money itself. Money is just energy. It flows to wherever the matching vibration exists. When your identity is aligned with abundance, when your internal frequency matches wealth, money finds you. Opportunities present themselves, doors open, resources appear. Not because you're lucky, but because you've become the kind of person who naturally attracts these things. From this moment forward, I want you to fundamentally shift how you think about your financial journey. Stop seeing wealth as something out there that you need to chase, capture, or convince to come to you. Start recognizing it as something that's already responding to who you are right now. Every single day, your reality is reflecting back to you exactly what your identity is broadcasting. If you want different results, you don't need a new strategy first. You need a new identity. You need to become someone different at the level of your core beliefs, your self-concept, your energetic signature. And here's what makes this both challenging and incredibly empowering. Your identity isn't fixed. It's not something you're born with that can never change. Your identity is something you can consciously reconstruct, redesign, elevate. But it requires awareness, intention, and a willingness to let go of stories that have been defining you for years, maybe your entire life. Let me show you exactly how this reconstruction process works and what it means for your financial future. If what I'm sharing is landing differently than anything you've heard before, write in the comments. Identity creates wealth. The reconstruction process begins with understanding something that completely inverts how most people approach their financial lives. Here it is, plain and simple. Wealth is not pursued, it is awakened. Read that again, because this single revelation, absorbed at exactly the right moment in your journey, has the power to completely rewrite your entire financial story. Most people spend their lives chasing wealth. They run after opportunities, hustle relentlessly, grind themselves down to nothing, believing that if they just work hard enough, long enough, smart enough, eventually abundance will surrender and come to them. But that's not how it works. That's not how it's ever worked. True abundance doesn't come from external pursuit. It comes from internal awakening. It comes from a shift in consciousness, a transformation in how you see yourself, a fundamental change in what you believe is possible and available to you. Think about the word awakening for a moment. When you awaken from sleep, you don't create consciousness. It was already there. You simply open your eyes to what was always present but previously unseen. The same applies to wealth. The abundance you're seeking isn't something you need to manufacture from nothing. It already exists in the field of infinite possibility. Your job isn't to create it through sheer force of will. Your job is to awaken to it, to open your inner eyes, to shift your frequency so that you can perceive and receive what's been available to you all along. This is where most people get stuck. They're operating from a paradigm of scarcity, of limitation, of having to fight for every scrap. And from that paradigm, no amount of strategy or effort will produce lasting abundance because the foundation is flawed. You cannot build a palace on quicksand. You need solid ground, and that solid ground is your identity, your consciousness, your awakened awareness of who you truly are and what you're truly capable of receiving. So let me ask you directly, and I want you to answer this honestly in your own mind right now. Are you willing to become the person who multiplies wealth? Not the person who chases it, not the person who hopes for it, not the person who struggles toward it, but the person who naturally, effortlessly, inevitably multiplies it? Because if your answer is yes, if there's something inside you that's saying, absolutely, I'm ready for this transformation, then you need to open your mind completely to what I'm about to share with you. What you're receiving right now isn't just another piece of content. This isn't one more motivational video that gets you excited for 20 minutes before you return to your old patterns. This isn't surface-level advice about budgeting or investing or side hustles. What you're receiving is a key, and understand what a key represents. A key is a tool with one specific, powerful purpose: to open what was previously locked, to access what was previously inaccessible, to enter spaces that were previously beyond your reach. If something shifted for you while watching this, hit that like button. It tells me this message is resonating and helps it reach others who are ready for this transformation. For years, maybe your entire life, you've been standing outside a door. Behind that door is the version of your life where wealth flows naturally, where opportunities appear consistently, where your value is recognized and compensated appropriately, where financial stress is a distant memory, where you have the resources to create the impact you're meant to have in this world. You've known that door was there. You've felt it. You've glimpsed what's on the other side through cracks and keyholes, but you couldn't open it because you didn't have the key. The key isn't external. It's not a secret strategy that the wealthy are hiding from you. It's not a connection you need to make or a skill you need to develop, though those things have their place. The key is internal. It's the transformation of your identity, the elevation of your consciousness, the awakening of your inherent capacity to align with abundance. And once you possess this key, once you truly understand how to use it, every door that seemed locked, every opportunity that seemed unavailable, every level of wealth that seemed beyond your reach suddenly becomes accessible. But here's the thing about receiving a key. You have to be ready to use it. You have to be willing to walk through the door. You have to be prepared to leave behind the familiar territory of limitation and step into the unknown territory of possibility. Let me show you exactly what that journey looks like and what happens when you make the decision to step through. If this is resonating at a level deeper than logic, write in the comments, I'm claiming this key. The journey through that door requires understanding something that goes against everything you've been taught about success and wealth. We live in a culture that worships effort, that glorifies the grind, that tells you if you're not exhausted, you're not working hard enough. Everywhere you look, the message is the same. Do more, work more, hustle harder, sleep less, push yourself beyond your limits. And so people run themselves into the ground, sacrificing their health, their relationships, their peace of mind, believing that somehow, if they just exhaust themselves thoroughly enough, wealth will finally appear as a reward for their suffering. But here's the paradigm shift that changes absolutely everything. You're not here to do more, you're here to become more. Wealth doesn't respond to your effort. Wealth responds to your identity. Think about that distinction carefully, because it's the difference between A lifetime of struggle and a life of natural abundance. Effort is what you do. Identity is who you are. And the universe, in its infinite intelligence, doesn't care nearly as much about what you do as it cares about who you're being while you're doing it. I've watched people work 80-hour weeks for decades and never break through to real wealth. I've also watched people work reasonable hours, maintain balance in their lives, and somehow attract extraordinary opportunities and resources. What's the difference? The difference isn't in the hours logged or the tasks completed. The difference is in the energetic frequency they're broadcasting, the identity they're embodying, the internal alignment they've achieved. Here's how to think about it. Wealth functions exactly like a magnet. And this isn't just a metaphor, it's a precise description of how attraction works in your financial life. A magnet doesn't chase after metal. A magnet doesn't run around desperately trying to find things to attract. A magnet doesn't force or push or exhaust itself. A magnet simply is what it is, and because of its inherent nature, it naturally draws toward itself whatever aligns with its frequency. Effortless, inevitable, natural. Every magnet attracts what it's aligned with. Put a magnet near iron, and the iron moves toward it without any additional effort required. Put a magnet near wood, and nothing happens because there's no alignment, no resonance, no frequency match. Your identity works the same way. When your internal identity is aligned with wealth, when you've become the kind of person who naturally resonates at the frequency of abundance, wealth moves toward you. Not because you're chasing it, not because you're working yourself to death, but because there's an energetic match, a vibrational alignment that creates inevitable attraction. So ask yourself this crucial question right now, and be completely honest in your answer. Have you been living as a magnet for wealth, or have you been living as a magnet for scarcity? Because here's what most people don't realize. You're always a magnet. You're always attracting something. The question is never whether you're magnetic. The question is what you're attracting based on the frequency you're broadcasting. If you wake up every morning feeling anxious about money, if your internal dialogue is constantly focused on what you lack, if your decisions are driven by fear of loss rather than faith in abundance, if you see the world as a place of limitation where you have to fight for scraps, then you're a magnet aligned with scarcity. And scarcity is exactly what you'll continue to attract, no matter how hard you work. But if you wake up feeling grateful, if your internal dialogue affirms your worthiness and capability, if your decisions come from a place of abundance consciousness, if you see the world as infinitely resourceful and yourself as someone who naturally receives from that infinite resource, then you're a magnet aligned with wealth. And wealth in all its forms will find its way to you through channels you couldn't have predicted or manufactured through effort alone. This is why the transformation must happen at the identity level first. You can learn every strategy, implement every tactic, work yourself into exhaustion, but if your underlying identity is still broadcasting scarcity, you'll sabotage every opportunity that comes your way. You'll make decisions from fear. You'll reject abundance when it appears because it doesn't match your self-concept. You'll unconsciously recreate the familiar patterns of limitation because that's what your identity recognizes as home. But when you shift your identity, when you genuinely become a different person at the energetic level, everything else shifts automatically. If you're recognizing where you've been misaligned, write in the comments, "I choose to become a wealth magnet." The shift in identity creates something powerful that I want you to visualize right now. Imagine yourself standing before a great bonfire, flames reaching high into the night sky, crackling with intense heat and brilliant light. This bonfire represents your personal power, your energetic presence in the world, the force that radiates from your core being. And here's what makes this image so critical to understand. The size and intensity of that fire determines everything about what you attract into your life. Every thought of genuine gratitude you have is like placing another log on that fire. Every coherent decision you make, every choice that aligns with your highest vision of yourself, adds fuel to the flames. Every belief you adopt that supports your abundance rather than your limitation makes the fire burn brighter and stronger. The bigger the flame grows, the more it illuminates the darkness around you. And in that illumination, you begin to see opportunities that were always there but previously invisible. Ideas that solve problems you've been struggling with suddenly appear in your consciousness. Connections with people who can help you reach the next level materialize seemingly out of nowhere. Resources, wealth, abundance of every kind move toward the light and warmth of your fire. But here's the part that most people miss entirely, the part that explains why so many people experience temporary success before falling back to their previous level. It's not enough to ignite the fire once. It's not enough to have a moment of inspiration, a week of motivation, a month of aligned action. You have to sustain it. You have to keep feeding that fire consistently, daily, relentlessly, until it becomes so strong that no storm can extinguish it. And this is where we arrive at one of the most profound truths about wealth creation. Wealth doesn't arrive when you search for it desperately, chasing after it with anxiety and need. Wealth arrives when you sustain it internally first. This might sound paradoxical, but stay with me because it's absolutely essential. Sustaining wealth is an internal act before it ever becomes an external reality. It's a vibrational act, an identity act, a practice of being the person who already has what you're calling into your life. The universe operates with a kind of intelligence that's both simple and sophisticated. It won't deliver abundance to someone whose identity can't maintain it, because it would be wasteful, pointless, even cruel. Imagine receiving a massive influx of wealth right now, today, but your internal identity is still programmed for scarcity. What happens? The wealth dissipates. It escapes like sand slipping through your fingers. You make unconscious decisions that destroy it. You sabotage yourself in ways you don't even recognize. You give it away, spend it recklessly, or attract people and circumstances that drain it from you. This is exactly why lottery winners so often end up bankrupt within a few years. It's not that the money wasn't real or that they didn't actually receive it. The problem is that their identity never shifted. Their internal fire wasn't strong enough to sustain the weight of that abundance. They received something externally that they hadn't developed the capacity to hold internally, and so it vanished, returning them to the only level of wealth their identity could maintain. Your work, then, isn't primarily about finding the next opportunity or implementing the perfect strategy. Your foundational work is about building your internal capacity to sustain wealth. It's about strengthening your fire to the point where abundance feels natural, comfortable, inevitable. It's about transforming your identity so deeply that wealth becomes an extension of who you are, rather than something foreign you're trying to capture and control. Think about people you know or have observed who maintain wealth across decades. They're not constantly anxious about losing it. They don't operate from fear or desperation. There's a quality of ease in how they relate to money because their identity has integrated wealth as a natural part of their reality. They've built the internal structure that can sustain it, the consciousness that knows how to steward it, the energetic frequency that continues to attract more of it. Now, I want to show you the specific practices that build this internal capacity, the daily actions that feed your fire and strengthen your wealth-sustaining identity. If you're seeing how your internal work has to match your external ambition, write in the comments, "I'm building my capacity." Building this capacity requires you to completely reframe how you've been interpreting your journey up until now. Every moment you've spent feeling like you were stuck, like you were failing, like you were somehow behind where you should be, all of that was actually preparation. You weren't failing, you were evolving, you weren't going backward, you were aligning. Every challenge you faced, every setback you experienced, every door that closed in your face was refining you, strengthening you, calibrating you to handle what's coming. The reason wealth hadn't fully arrived before this moment isn't because you weren't worthy or capable. It's because you were still in the preparation phase, developing the internal architecture necessary to sustain what you're about to receive. Think about it like this. If you tried to pour an ocean into a cup, what happens? The cup overflows. Most of the water is wasted. The cup itself might even break under the pressure. You've been expanding your capacity, growing from a cup into a reservoir, from a reservoir into a lake. And the moment you're ready to receive and contain the abundance that's meant for you, that's when it flows in. This is one of the most liberating truths you can internalize because it means nothing has been wasted. Every struggle taught you resilience. Every financial challenge showed you what not to do. Every moment of scarcity clarified your desire for abundance. Every experience shaped your character, refined your wisdom, and prepared your consciousness for the level of wealth you're moving toward. And here's the powerful truth that changes how you view timing. Nothing arrives before you're ready, but nothing can stop what's destined to arrive when you are ready. You are reaching that point of readiness right now. Something inside you knows it. That's why you're here. Why these words are landing differently than all the other content you've consumed. Your moment is arriving because you've done the invisible work, often without even realizing it. You've evolved your consciousness to a place where you can finally receive and sustain what's coming. Let me show you how to recognize where you are in this journey. Inside your mind, right now, there's an energy compass. It's not something you can see with your physical eyes, but you can feel it if you pay attention. This compass is constantly pointing in a direction, and that direction is determined by your dominant vibration, your habitual thoughts, your underlying beliefs about what's possible for you. At any given moment, this compass is pointing either toward abundance or toward scarcity. Feel it right now. Don't overthink this. Just tune into the subtle energy beneath your conscious thoughts. Which direction does your compass naturally incline? When you think about your financial future, does your energy move toward possibility and expansion, or does it contract toward limitation and fear? When you imagine having the wealth you desire, does it feel exciting and inevitable, or does it feel impossible and unrealistic? Your honest answer to these questions reveals where your compass is pointing. And here's what I need you to understand. If your compass is pointing even 1 millimeter toward abundance, even if it's not completely there yet, even if there's still doubt and uncertainty mixed in, you're ready for what follows. That slight inclination toward possibility, that tiny opening in your consciousness, that small shift in your vibration is enough. It's the crack that lets the light in. It's the signal that you're crossing a threshold that only those prepared to multiply their wealth from within can cross. Most people never cross this threshold because they're waiting for perfect certainty, complete confidence, absolute proof before they're willing to shift their identity. But transformation doesn't work that way. You don't wait until you're completely ready and then step into the new identity. You step into the new identity while you're still uncertain, still growing, still learning. And that act of stepping in is what completes your readiness. The courage to claim your new identity before the external evidence appears is what activates the magnetic force that draws that evidence into your reality. Let me show you exactly how to make this shift concrete and permanent in your daily experience. If you can feel your compass starting to shift direction, write in the comments, "My compass points toward abundance." Making this shift concrete starts with understanding something that might feel counterintuitive at first. Wealth doesn't multiply outside in the world before it multiplies inside, in your consciousness. This is the sequence that most people get backward. They think they need to see the money first, hold it in their hands, watch the numbers increase in their bank account, and then they'll finally believe they're abundant. But that's the reverse of how creation actually works. The multiplication happens internally first, in how you see yourself, in what you believe is possible, in the energetic field you're generating. Only then does the external world reorganize to match that internal reality. You're finally prepared to look inward without fear, and that's significant because most people avoid this inner work their entire lives. They keep themselves busy with external strategies, precisely so they don't have to face what's happening internally. They don't want to confront their limiting beliefs, their inherited stories about money, their deep-seated feelings of unworthiness. But you've reached a point of maturity where you can examine your inner landscape honestly, without judgment, without terror, simply with the intention to understand and transform. Here's what happens when you do this inner work courageously. Sometimes we believe life is deliberately stopping us, blocking our progress, denying us what we deserve. We look at our circumstances and think the universe is conspiring against us, that we're somehow cursed or forgotten. But the truth is far more empowering and far more hopeful. Life isn't stopping you. Life is simply organizing what you are with what you're asking for. It's creating coherence between your internal state and your external experience. If there's a mismatch between what you're asking for and who you're being, life pauses the delivery until alignment occurs, not as punishment, but as protection. It's the same wisdom that prevents a child from receiving car keys before they're old enough to drive safely. The gift is delayed not because they're unworthy, but because they're not yet capable of handling it responsibly. Your delays, your seeming obstacles, your periods of waiting have been this same protective wisdom, giving you time to develop the internal capacity to match your external desires. Now imagine with me, again, because visualization activates neural pathways that pure logic cannot reach. Picture a perfect mirror standing before you, flawless and incapable of deception. This mirror doesn't reflect your physical appearance. It reflects something invisible but infinitely more important, your internal vibration. Not the words you speak about abundance, not the desires you claim to have, not the dreams you talk about with others. None of that shows up in this mirror. The only thing this mirror reflects is your actual vibration, your true energetic frequency, the signal you're broadcasting from the deepest part of your being. If your vibration is scarcity, if your dominant internal frequency is lack and limitation, the mirror returns experiences of scarcity. You'll attract circumstances that confirm your limitations. Opportunities will seem scarce. Money will feel hard to come by. Abundance will appear to exist for everyone else, but somehow remain just out of your reach. Not because the universe is unfair, but because the mirror is honest. It's showing you precisely what you're broadcasting. But here's the transformative part, the part that gives you complete power over your financial reality. When you change your internal state with total certainty, when you shift your vibration from scarcity to abundance, from fear to faith, from limitation to possibility, that mirror begins to transform what it shows you. The reflection changes because the source has changed. Your external experiences start reorganizing to match your new internal frequency. This isn't mystical thinking divorced from reality. This is how energy works, how consciousness shapes matter, how your internal world creates your external world. Every thought you think generates an electromagnetic signal. Every emotion you feel broadcasts a frequency. Every belief you hold creates a filter through which you perceive and interact with reality. Change the source, change the signal, change the frequency, and the reflection in the mirror of your life must change accordingly. Let me show you exactly how to make this vibrational shift permanent and powerful. If you're recognizing that your reality has been mirroring your inner state, write in the comments, "I'm shifting my vibration now." Making this vibrational shift permanent requires understanding a principle that will completely change how you view your past struggles and delays. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, never gives you something that would break you. It only delivers what you're genuinely prepared to expand and multiply. This isn't limitation. This is love. This is protection operating at the highest level. Think back to where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe even further back. Imagine if you had received a massive influx of wealth at that point in your journey. What would have happened? Be honest with yourself. Your mentality was different then. You were still carrying doubts, fears, scarcity, programming that you've since worked through. Your identity hadn't yet evolved to the level it's at now. Your consciousness was operating at a lower frequency, not because you were a bad person, but simply because you hadn't done the inner work yet. If wealth had arrived when your internal foundation was still weak, it would have disappeared like water slipping through your fingers. You would have made decisions from fear rather than wisdom. You would have attracted people and situations that drained those resources. You might have squandered it trying to prove something to others or to fill internal voids that money can never actually fill. The wealth wouldn't have broken you necessarily, but it wouldn't have stayed with you either. It would have flowed through without taking root because the soil of your consciousness wasn't ready to sustain it. But everything is different now. You've been through experiences that shaped you. You've faced challenges that strengthened your character. You've made mistakes that taught you wisdom. You've questioned, searched, struggled, and grown in ways that were invisible to others, but absolutely essential for your development. And now, standing where you are today, you're finally at a point where you can receive wealth and expand it rather than lose it. Let me give you another image that captures exactly where you are right now. You're standing at the edge of a bridge, an old wooden structure that spans across a river. This isn't just any river. This is the same river of wealth we talked about earlier, the one that's been flowing beside you, below you, around you, your entire life. The current is strong, powerful, filled with abundance and opportunity. It's always been there. It never stopped flowing. It never dried up. It never became inaccessible. But something is different this time. Every other time you've stood at this bridge, you've looked down at the water with fear, with uncertainty, with a deep knowing that you weren't ready to enter. You watched other people jump in and float effortlessly downstream, and you wondered what was wrong with you, why you couldn't seem to take that leap. But the truth is, you could feel intuitively that the timing wasn't right. Your identity hadn't aligned yet. Your vibration wasn't matching the frequency of the river. And so you waited, not consciously perhaps, but wisely nonetheless. This time, standing at the edge of that same bridge, you feel something completely different. You feel an invitation, not a demand, not pressure, but a gentle, unmistakable call to enter, to immerse yourself, to finally let the current carry you and sustain you. And here's the crucial insight that makes all the difference. The river hasn't changed. The current hasn't softened to make things easier for you. The water hasn't become less powerful or more accommodating. The river is exactly what it's always been. The only thing that's changed is you. Your capacity has increased. Your identity has strengthened. Your vibration has elevated. Your consciousness has expanded to the point where you can now enter that river and thrive in its current rather than be overwhelmed by it. You've developed the internal skills, the mental resilience, the emotional stability, the spiritual alignment necessary to navigate abundance successfully. And that changes everything about what's possible for you moving forward. Let me show you what happens the moment you step off that bridge and Enter the flow. If you're feeling that invitation right now, write in the comments, "I'm ready to enter the river." The moment you step off that bridge and enter the river is the moment you make a decision that transcends logic and touches something far more fundamental. It's the moment you decide to become the person capable of sustaining unlimited wealth. Notice I didn't say the person who wants unlimited wealth or who hopes for it or who's trying to figure out how to get it. I said the person capable of sustaining it. That's a completely different identity, a completely different way of existing in the world. Stop thinking about the amount for a moment. The specific numbers don't matter yet. What matters is the identity you're choosing to embody. Ask yourself what would shift if you genuinely became that person today, right now, not someday in the future when conditions are perfect, but in this present moment. How would your behavior change? How would your energy feel different? What would shift in the way you speak to yourself in those quiet moments when nobody else is listening? Think about the way you would enter a room if you truly embodied unlimited wealth consciousness, not arrogance, not showing off, not trying to impress anyone, just a quiet confidence, a settled knowing that you belong in any space, that your value is inherent, that you have nothing to prove and everything to offer. Think about how you would make decisions from that place. You wouldn't be desperate. You wouldn't be grasping. You wouldn't make choices from fear of loss or scarcity. You would evaluate opportunities clearly, choose what aligns with your vision and release what doesn't, without anxiety or second-guessing. This identity shift isn't pretending. It's not fake it until you make it in the superficial sense. It's genuinely reorganizing your internal structure, your sense of self, your energetic signature to match the frequency of the wealth you're calling in. And when you do this, authentically, when the shift is real and not just performed, something remarkable happens. Life itself begins to reorganize in your favor. You start noticing it in small signs at first, things so subtle you might miss them if you weren't paying attention. An unexpected message arrives from someone you haven't heard from in years, and it leads to an opportunity you couldn't have predicted. An idea appears in your mind, seemingly from nowhere. A solution to a problem you've been wrestling with for months. You're scrolling through information you've seen 100 times before, but suddenly you notice something you never saw. An opportunity that was always there but invisible until your frequency shifted enough to perceive it. Your emotional state changes in ways that feel almost inexplicable. You wake up one morning and the usual anxiety about money just isn't there. It's been replaced with a calm certainty that things are working out, that you're on the right path, that abundance is flowing toward you even if you can't see all the evidence yet. That change isn't random. It's a direct result of your identity shift, creating new neural pathways, new emotional patterns, new ways of relating to your financial reality. You experience sudden clarity about decisions you've been avoiding. What seemed complicated and overwhelming suddenly feels simple. The right choice becomes obvious. The path forward illuminates itself. You feel a new impulse toward action, not frantic hustle, not desperate scrambling, but purposeful movement, guided by an inner knowing that wasn't accessible to you before. These aren't coincidences. These aren't lucky breaks. This is the universe responding to your vibrational shift, to your identity transformation, to your willingness to finally become the person capable of receiving and sustaining unlimited wealth. The reorganization happens automatically once you make the internal shift authentic. You don't have to force it. You don't have to manipulate circumstances or push doors open with brute strength. You simply hold your new frequency steady, remain consistent with your elevated identity, and watch as the external world rearranges itself to match your internal reality. Opportunities that seemed impossible become probable, then inevitable. Resources you needed appear through channels you never could have engineered consciously. People who can help you advance show up exactly when you need them. And here's what makes this so powerful. The reorganization compounds over time. Each small sign builds on the previous one. Each synchronicity strengthens your faith in the process. Each piece of evidence that your transformation is working makes it easier to maintain your new identity, which creates more evidence, which reinforces the identity further. You enter a positive feedback loop where your internal state and your external results amplify each other in an upward spiral. Let me show you how to accelerate this reorganization and make it permanent in your experience. If you're already noticing these small signs appearing in your life, write in the comments, "Life is reorganizing for me." Accelerating this reorganization begins with recognizing something profound about your current experience. The fact that you're hearing these words right now, at this precise moment in your life, is not coincidence, it's synchronicity. There's a massive difference between those two concepts, and understanding that difference changes everything about how you navigate your journey toward wealth. Coincidence is random, meaningless, accidental. Two unrelated events happening to occur at the same time with no deeper significance. But synchronicity is something else entirely. Synchronicity is the universe's way of confirming you're on the right path, of showing you that you're aligned, of delivering exactly what you need exactly when you need it. And the appearance of this message in your life right now is synchronicity of the highest order. When a person is ready to multiply their wealth, genuinely ready at the soul level, life starts communicating with them differently. It begins with whispers, those subtle intuitions you can easily dismiss or ignore if you're not paying attention. A quiet knowing that something needs to change, a gentle pull toward new information or different perspectives. A soft voice suggesting possibilities you've been afraid to consider. Most people miss these whispers, entirely because they're too focused on the noise of their daily circumstances, too caught up in the struggle, too deafened by their own anxiety and doubt. But if you're listening, if you're paying attention, those whispers grow louder. They become signs, unmistakable indicators that you're entering new territory. Books appear in your life at exactly the right moment. Conversations happen that shift your entire perspective. Opportunities present themselves in ways that feel almost orchestrated. You start noticing patterns, connections, synchronicities that are too consistent to be random. And if you continue listening, if you keep following the thread, those signs transform into certainties, unshakable knowings that guide your decisions and actions with absolute clarity. You're entering that frequency right now. That's what this moment represents. You've moved beyond the whispers, you're recognizing the signs, and you're on the edge of certainties that will fundamentally reshape your financial reality. And the key to moving fully into those certainties is understanding something most people never grasp about money itself. Money was never the objective, never the actual goal, never the thing you were truly seeking. Money has always been, and will always be, an extension of your energy. Think about what that means at the deepest level. Money is frozen energy, crystallized life force, physical manifestation of the vibration you're broadcasting. It flows to you, through you, and from you based on the quality and clarity of your energetic state. When your energy is chaotic, scattered, pulled in 17 different directions, money arrives chaotically if it arrives at all. It comes in unexpected ways and leaves just as quickly. There's no pattern, no reliability, no sense of control or predictability. When your energy is contracted in scarcity, vibrating at the frequency of not enough, money arrives accompanied by fear. Even when you receive it, you're anxious about losing it. You grip it tightly, make decisions from desperation, and often end up pushing it away through that very fear. But when your energy becomes clear, when you've done the inner work to align your identity with abundance, when you've elevated your consciousness to operate at a higher frequency, something miraculous happens. Wealth begins to multiply without the kind of grinding, exhausting, rational effort that most people think is required. Not without any effort, but without the struggle, without the force, without the desperate pushing that characterizes most people's relationship with money. The multiplication becomes natural, organic, almost effortless, because you're finally working with the fundamental laws of energy rather than against them. You're no longer trying to force the river to flow uphill. You're aligning yourself with its natural current and letting it carry you forward. Your clear energy acts as a beacon, attracting resources, opportunities, and abundance from directions you couldn't have predicted or manufactured through strategy alone. This is the hidden mechanism behind every story of seemingly overnight success, every tale of someone who went from struggle to abundance in what appears to be a remarkably short time. From the outside, it looks like luck or timing or being in the right place at the right moment. But from the inside, it's the inevitable result of energy alignment, of consciousness elevation, of identity transformation, finally reaching critical mass and manifesting in physical reality. Now let me reveal the specific energetic patterns that either block or accelerate this wealth multiplication. If you're understanding money differently now, write in the comments, "Money is energy flowing to me." Revealing these energetic patterns requires you to understand something about how energy actually works in your life. Have you ever watched a small fire grow? You start with kindling, tiny twigs, dry leaves, just enough to create a flame. At first it's fragile, easily extinguished by a strong wind or too much moisture. But when you feed that fire properly, consistently, with the right materials at the right time, something transformative happens. The small flame becomes a steady fire. The steady fire becomes a roaring blaze. Eventually, you're standing before a bonfire that illuminates everything around it, radiates warmth in every direction, and becomes nearly impossible to extinguish. Your energy operates by exactly the same principle. The abundance you're seeking starts as a small flame within you, a spark of possibility, a whisper of what could be. And that flame needs to be fed, nurtured, protected, until it grows strong enough to sustain itself and multiply naturally. But here's where most people sabotage their own process. They want the bonfire results without doing the bonfire work. They want more money flooding into their lives, but they don't want more clarity about who they are and what they truly value. They desire abundance, but they resist the internal responsibility that comes with stewarding significant wealth. They want to multiply their riches, but they refuse to multiply their consciousness. That's like expecting a massive fire while only providing enough fuel for a candle. The universe doesn't work that way. Energy responds to energy. Consciousness attracts corresponding circumstances. If you want exponential growth in your external wealth, you must create exponential growth in your internal capacity. You must be willing to feed the fire consistently, to expand your awareness, to take responsibility not just for what you have, but for what you're becoming. This internal expansion isn't always comfortable. In fact, it rarely is. Growing your consciousness means confronting beliefs you've held since childhood. It means questioning narratives you inherited from your family, your culture, your early experiences. It means looking honestly at the ways you've been complicit in your own limitations, the ways you've made yourself small to fit into spaces that were never meant to contain you. But this discomfort is the fuel. This willingness to expand is what transforms your small flame into an unstoppable force. Now, let me give you another tool for navigating this journey. Imagine you're holding a compass in your hand right now, but this isn't an ordinary compass pointing to magnetic north. This compass points to something far more valuable: your purpose, your authentic power, your highest alignment. And like any compass, the needle moves based on the forces acting upon it. Every time you move away from your power, every time you make a decision from fear instead of faith, Every time you shrink yourself to please others or avoid discomfort, the needle goes absolutely crazy. It trembles, spins wildly, loses all sense of direction. You can feel this in your body as anxiety, confusion, that gnawing sense that something is off even if you can't articulate exactly what. But watch what happens when you make different choices. Every time you think big, allowing yourself to imagine possibilities beyond your current circumstances, the needle starts to settle. Every time you see yourself as genuinely valuable, as someone worthy of respect and abundance, the needle moves toward stability. Every time you choose gratitude over complaint, faith over fear, possibility over limitation, the needle aligns more perfectly, pointing with increasing accuracy toward true abundance. This compass is always operating within you. Most people just haven't learned to read it, to trust it, to follow its guidance. They override their internal compass with external opinions, societal expectations, fears inherited from others. But you're learning to tune into your compass, to feel its movements, to recognize when you're aligned and when you've drifted off course. And that skill, that sensitivity to your own internal guidance system is worth more than any external strategy or technique could ever be. The more consistently you follow your compass, the more your energy clarifies and strengthens. The clearer your energy becomes, the more powerfully you attract wealth. And the more wealth flows to you, the more you're able to fulfill your purpose, create your impact, and become the person you were always meant to be. Let me show you how to keep your compass calibrated and your fire burning bright regardless of external circumstances. If you're feeling your internal compass guiding you towards something greater, write in the comments, "I trust my inner compass." Keeping your compass calibrated and your fire burning requires confronting something that most people never address directly. It's a question that might make you uncomfortable, but your answer determines everything about your financial future. Here it is. Have you actually given yourself real permission to be rich? Not surface-level permission where you say you want money. Real permission at the deepest level of your being, where you've released every unconscious prohibition against wealth that you've been carrying. Most people walk through life unconsciously forbidding themselves from having wealth. They inherited these prohibitions from parents who struggled financially and developed bitter attitudes about money. They absorbed messages from religious teachings that suggested poverty was somehow more virtuous than prosperity. They internalized cultural narratives about rich people being greedy or corrupt or somehow less authentic than those who struggle. And all of these inherited beliefs create invisible barriers that block abundance from flowing into their lives, no matter how hard they work or how much they claim to desire wealth. You cannot multiply wealth if, at the unconscious level, you've forbidden yourself from having it. The prohibition operates like a force field, repelling the very thing you're consciously trying to attract. And here's what makes this particularly insidious. Your conscious mind might genuinely want wealth, while your unconscious mind actively prevents it from staying in your life. You receive money only to make decisions that cause you to lose it. Opportunities appear only for you to sabotage them at the last moment. Success arrives only for you to unconsciously create situations that destroy it. Breaking these prohibitions requires understanding something crucial about receiving. Wealth doesn't arrive to those who merely desire it. Millions of people desire wealth without ever experiencing it. Wealth arrives to those who are genuinely willing to receive it, to hold it, to steward it responsibly. And receiving isn't passive, isn't about sitting back and waiting for good things to fall into your lap. Receiving is an active state, an energetic openness, a conscious willingness to accept what the universe wants to give you without guilt, without shame, without apology. Receiving is identity. It's knowing at your core that you're worthy of abundance. Receiving is openness, creating space in your consciousness for wealth to enter and expand. Receiving is confidence, the settled assurance that you can handle whatever level of prosperity flows to you. When you cultivate these qualities, when you genuinely give yourself permission to be rich, the prohibitions dissolve and the flow begins. Let me give you one more visualization that brings all of this together. Close your eyes for just a moment, and then picture this. You're standing before a giant door, massive and imposing, carved from dark wood that seems to have witnessed centuries of history. The wood is rich, deep, almost black, and running through it are intricate golden details, patterns that seem to tell a story you can't quite decipher but somehow recognize. This door feels ancient, important, almost sacred. It's not just any entrance, it's the threshold between who you've been and who you're becoming. This door represents the version of you that multiplies wealth effortlessly, not the version that chases after money desperately, running from opportunity to opportunity without ever catching what you're pursuing, not the version that passively waits, hoping someday circumstances will magically improve without your active participation. This door represents the version of you that naturally attracts wealth, that magnetizes abundance through the sheer force of your aligned identity, that creates value so authentically that prosperity flows to you as an inevitable consequence. That version of you already exists. It's not something you need to create from nothing. It's something you need to step into, claim, embody. And this door is your passage from here to there, from limitation to expansion, from struggle to flow. The door has always been there, standing before you, waiting. But until now, until this precise moment in your journey, you couldn't quite see it clearly. Your consciousness hadn't evolved to the point where you could perceive what was always available. But now you can see it. Now you know it's there. Now you're standing right in front of it, your hand reaching toward the handle. Let me show you exactly what happens when you finally turn that handle and step through. If you can visualize this door and feel yourself standing before it, write in the comments, "I see the door opening." When you turn that handle and step through this door, you enter a reality governed by different rules than the one you've been living in. And the first rule you need to understand is this: the universe never opens a door that your identity cannot sustain. This isn't cruelty. This is cosmic intelligence protecting you from receiving something that would ultimately harm you or slip away because you weren't ready to hold it. Think about it like this. If that door swung open right now and behind it was everything you've been asking for, every material possession, every level of wealth, every opportunity you've dreamed about, but your identity was still operating from scarcity, what would happen? You'd walk through, grab everything you could, and then watch it all disintegrate because you don't yet have the internal structure to maintain it. The universe knows this, and so it waits, patiently, holding the door closed until you've developed into someone who can not only receive what's on the other side, but multiply it. But here's the empowering flip side of that truth. When you're genuinely prepared, when your identity has transformed to match the frequency of what you're calling in, no force in the world can keep that door closed. Not your past failures, not your current circumstances, not other people's opinions or limitations, not the economy or the timing or any external factor you might be tempted to blame. When you're ready, the door opens, and what was impossible becomes inevitable. The key to multiplying your wealth, then, isn't learning some secret external strategy. The key is learning to claim what already exists in the world. And this is where most people's understanding completely breaks down. They think they're creating wealth from nothing, manufacturing abundance through sheer force of will and effort. But that's not how it works. Wealth already exists. Abundance is already present. The resources you need are already circulating in the world. You're not creating them from scratch. You're tuning into a frequency that already exists. It's exactly like adjusting a radio dial. The music isn't created by your turning of the dial. The music is already broadcasting, already existing as radio waves in the air around you. Your radio just needs to tune to the right frequency to receive it clearly. Your mind works the same way. Right now, there's a frequency of abundance broadcasting constantly throughout the universe. Opportunities, resources, connections, ideas, all of it already exists, already available, already present. But if your mental dial is tuned to the frequency of scarcity, you cannot receive the abundance broadcast. You're on the wrong channel. When you adjust your vibration, when you shift your identity, when you transform your consciousness, you're literally turning the dial of your mind to enter the channel of abundance. And the moment you lock onto that frequency, what you desire becomes accessible. Not because it suddenly appeared, but because you finally tuned into where it's always been. What you're seeking is already present in the field of infinite possibility. You just need to accept it, to open your receiving channels, to allow it to flow into your experience without resistance or disbelief. This acceptance is where most people stumble. They can understand the concept intellectually, but they cannot accept it emotionally. Some part of them still doesn't believe they deserve it, still questions whether it's really possible for them, still doubts that they're the kind of person who gets to experience that level of prosperity. And that doubt, that lack of acceptance, keeps them on the wrong frequency no matter how much they claim to want wealth. True acceptance means feeling it as already done. It means operating from the knowing that what you desire is already yours in the realm of possibility, and it's simply a matter of time before it manifests in physical form. It means making decisions today as if you already have the wealth you're calling in, not from delusion or recklessness, but from alignment with the identity of someone who naturally has access to abundance. This acceptance creates a vibrational match, and that match is what allows the frequency to lock in and the manifestation to occur. Let me reveal the specific practices that solidify this acceptance and lock you into the abundance frequency permanently. If you're ready to accept that your wealth already exists, write in the comments, "I accept my abundance now." Solidifying this acceptance requires understanding a distinction that separates those who manifest wealth from those who merely wish for it. The distinction comes down to how you desire. When you desire something from a place of anxiety, from a desperate need, from a feeling of lack, you're actually confirming to the universe that you don't have it. Your anxiety is a broadcast signal that says, "I am separate from what I want, it's far away from me, I might never get it." And the universe, being a perfect mirror, reflects that separation back to you by keeping the thing you desire at a distance. But when you desire something from a place of certainty, from calm knowing, from settled confidence, you're confirming that it's already yours. You're broadcasting a completely different signal that says, "This is mine, it's already decided. I'm simply waiting for the physical manifestation to catch up with the energetic reality." And the universe responds to that certainty by accelerating the manifestation, bringing what you desire into your experience with increasing speed and ease. This is the master key that unlocks everything. Stop asking from scarcity and start choosing from abundance. Feel the difference in those two approaches. Asking from scarcity sounds like, "Please, I hope, maybe if I'm lucky, could I possibly have this?" It's tentative, uncertain, powerless. Choosing from abundance sounds like, "I claim this, I accept this, this is mine by right and alignment." It's decisive, certain, powerful. Same desire, completely different energy, completely different results. The challenge is that choosing from abundance requires you to break out of the mental mold you inherited, and that's not easy because you've been living in that mold your entire life. Every person inherits a set of beliefs about money, success, and worthiness from their family, their culture, their early experiences. These beliefs were installed in your mind before you had the capacity to question them, before you could consciously choose what to believe. And those inherited beliefs create a mold, a container that determines the shape and size of what you can receive. No person can multiply their wealth while living within the mental mold they inherited. It's impossible. If your mind continues operating with the same old beliefs, running the same old programs, following the same old patterns, you cannot and will not have new results. The old mold can only produce what it was designed to produce. If you grew up in a household where money was scarce, where bills created stress, where wealth was viewed with suspicion or resentment, that's the mold you inherited. And unless you consciously break it and rebuild something new, you'll keep recreating those same patterns regardless of how much opportunity comes your way. Your mind, as it was originally programmed, isn't designed for abundance. It's designed for survival. And there's a massive difference between those two modes of operation. Survival mode is about scarcity, threat, protection, fear. It's about doing whatever it takes to make it through another day, another week, another month. Abundance mode is about expansion, possibility, creation, faith. It's about building something meaningful that lasts, that grows, that multiplies beyond your immediate needs. Most people spend their entire lives stuck in survival mode because that's what their inherited mold knows how to do. They might achieve some measure of success, but they can never quite break through to real abundance because their underlying programming keeps pulling them back to survival patterns. They make money only to immediately spend it because survival mode doesn't know how to accumulate and invest. They receive opportunities only to sabotage them because survival mode is hypervigilant about threat and sees danger even in good fortune. Breaking this mold requires conscious, deliberate, sustained effort. You have to identify the specific beliefs you inherited, examine them honestly, and make active choices about which ones to keep and which ones to release. You have to notice when you're operating from survival mode and consciously shift into abundance mode. You have to reprogram your mind with new beliefs, new patterns, new ways of seeing yourself and your relationship with wealth. And this reprogramming isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice, a continuous choosing, an ongoing transformation that deepens over time. Let me show you the exact process for breaking your inherited mold and building a new mental structure designed for unlimited wealth. If you're recognizing the mold you need to break, write in the comments, "I'm breaking free from old beliefs." Breaking your inherited mold and building a new mental structure is a process that begins with understanding something most people resist. When you're genuinely ready to multiply your wealth, the first thing that changes isn't your bank account. It's not your circumstances. It's not the opportunities appearing in front of you. The first thing that changes is you internally, at the level of identity and consciousness. And that internal change, as necessary and powerful as it is, hurts. It hurts to leave behind thoughts that have accompanied you your whole life. These thoughts became familiar companions, comfortable even in their limitation. They told you what was possible and what wasn't, what you deserved and what was beyond your reach, who you were and who you could never become. And even though these thoughts were constraining you, keeping you small, limiting your potential, they were known, they were safe. Letting them go feels like a kind of death, and in a very real sense it is. But this pain is not a sign that something is wrong. This pain is an act of rebirth, the necessary discomfort that accompanies all genuine transformation. Think about a snake shedding its skin. The old skin becomes tight, restrictive, no longer suitable for the growing body beneath. And so the snake must go through the uncomfortable process of sloughing it off, leaving behind what no longer fits to reveal what's been developing underneath. That's exactly what's happening to you right now. Your old identity, your inherited beliefs, your limiting self-concept, all of it is becoming too tight for who you're becoming. And the shedding process, while uncomfortable, is absolutely essential. You cannot grow into your new wealth-multiplying identity while still wearing the skin of your old, survival-based identity. One must be released for the other to fully emerge, and the more you resist this process, the more you try to cling to who you used to be while simultaneously trying to become someone new, the more painful it becomes. But when you surrender to it, when you allow the old to fall away without fighting or grieving excessively, the rebirth happens more smoothly, and the new identity can take root more quickly. This brings us to the foundational truth that determines everything about your financial future. Wealth doesn't multiply from force, from grinding effort, from desperate striving. Wealth multiplies from identity. Who you are at the deepest level determines what you can create, receive, and sustain. A person who believes at their core that they barely deserve to survive, that life is hard, that they're not worthy of abundance, will work their entire life to survive. They might work incredibly hard, put in extraordinary effort, sacrifice immensely. But all that effort will only produce survival-level results because that's what their identity can support. Conversely, a person who believes they're destined for abundance, who knows in their bones that prosperity is their birthright, who sees themselves as someone who creates value and naturally receives wealth in return, will end up prospering. And this is true regardless of their starting point, regardless of their background, regardless of how many obstacles they face. Their identity creates a gravitational pull toward abundance that eventually overcomes any external resistance. I've watched this play out countless times. Two people start from similar circumstances, similar challenges, similar lack of resources. One sees themselves as a victim of circumstance, forever limited by their past. The other sees themselves as a creator of their future, temporarily constrained but ultimately unstoppable. Fast forward 5 years, 10 years, and their realities have diverged dramatically. Not because one got lucky and the other didn't, but because their identities created completely different paths, attracted completely different opportunities, generated completely different results. Your identity is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Change your identity and you change your trajectory. Maintain your old identity and you maintain your old results, no matter how many new strategies you try. This is why the internal work matters so profoundly, why the transformation of consciousness is not optional but essential, why you must be willing to let the old you die so the new you can fully live. Let me reveal the specific shifts in identity that create the foundation for unlimited wealth multiplication. If you're willing to let your old identity fall away, write in the comments, "I embrace my rebirth." Revealing these specific identity shifts starts with understanding your mind as a precision instrument. Your mind operates exactly like a magnet, but here's the crucial detail most people miss. It only attracts what it's calibrated for. You can't simply decide you want wealth and expect your mind to start attracting it if your internal calibration is still set to scarcity. The magnet doesn't attract based on what you consciously want. It attracts based on how it's configured at the deepest level. Think about a radio tower broadcasting a signal. That tower sends out a specific frequency, and only receivers tuned to that exact frequency can pick it up. Your mind is broadcasting a frequency right now, this very moment, and that frequency is determined by your calibration, by your identity, by who you fundamentally believe yourself to be. If your identity is calibrated to scarcity, to limitation, to barely getting by, then that's the frequency you're broadcasting. And the universe, acting as the perfect receiver, responds by sending you experiences that match that frequency. You cannot attract wealth, genuine multiplying abundance, if your identity remains calibrated to scarcity. The frequencies don't match. It's like trying to play an FM station on an AM radio. The signal exists, but you're not equipped to receive it. So before life can multiply your wealth externally, you must multiply yourself internally. You must expand your identity, recalibrate your mental instrument, shift your fundamental frequency to match the abundance you're calling into your experience. This multiplication of self isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's actually about remembering who you truly are, beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the inherited limitations, beneath all the stories you've been told about what's possible for you. And as you advance on this journey, as you do the work of recalibration and identity transformation, something remarkable starts to happen. You begin to remember a version of yourself you had forgotten. There was a time, maybe when you were very young, before the world taught you to be small, before fear and doubt took up residence in your mind, when you knew yourself differently. You were more audacious then, more willing to dream impossibly big dreams. You were more intuitive, more connected to that inner knowing that doesn't need external proof to be certain. You were more connected with your own power, that natural confidence that comes from being fully yourself without apology or hesitation. Life, with all its disappointments and setbacks and harsh lessons, caused you to forget that version of yourself. You learned to be cautious, to play it safe, to dim your light so others wouldn't feel threatened. You learned to doubt your intuition, to override your inner knowing with logic and fear. You learned to hide your power, to make yourself smaller, to fit into spaces that were never designed to contain your full potential. But that original version of you never actually disappeared. It's been waiting, dormant but alive, like embers buried beneath ash. And now, as you recalibrate your identity, as you release the limitations and step into your true capacity for wealth, that version begins to move within you. It's like an ancient fire awakening among the embers, slowly at first, then with increasing intensity. You start to feel that old audacity returning, that willingness to claim what you want without apology. Your intuition sharpens, becomes clearer, guides you with increasing accuracy. Your power resurfaces, not as arrogance or aggression, but as calm. Certainty, unshakable knowing, grounded confidence in who you are and what you're capable of creating. This remembering is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you always were before the world convinced you to be someone smaller. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you abandoned in order to survive, to fit in, to avoid rejection or criticism. And as those parts return, as that fire burns brighter, your entire energetic signature transforms. You become magnetic in a way you've never been before. Opportunities start appearing because your frequency finally matches them. Resources flow towards you because you're no longer blocking them with doubt and unworthiness. Wealth begins to multiply because you finally multiplied yourself into someone capable of receiving and expanding it. Let me show you how to accelerate this remembering and fan the flames of your awakening power. If you're feeling that forgotten version of yourself beginning to stir, write in the comments, "I remember who I truly am." Accelerating this remembering begins with understanding the nature of the fire within you. Every person carries this fire, this internal spark of creative power and unlimited potential. It's not something you need to acquire from outside yourself or learn from someone else. It's inherent, built into your very being from the moment you were born. But life has a way of extinguishing that fire, or at least burying it so deeply under layers of conditioning, that you forget it exists. Routine extinguished it, the endless repetition of days that look the same, feel the same, produce the same limited results. You wake up, go through the motions, survive another day, and somewhere in that mechanical existence, the fire dims. Fear covered it with ashes. All the times you tried something bold and it didn't work out, all the moments you were criticized or rejected for being too much or wanting too much, all the experiences that taught you it was safer to stay small. Society silenced it with messages about knowing your place, being realistic, not getting your hopes up, accepting your lot in life. But here's the truth that changes everything. One spark is enough to revive it. Just one. It doesn't take a massive external intervention or some dramatic life event. It takes a single moment of recognition, a flash of remembrance, an instant when you connect with that deeper part of yourself that never accepted the limitations. This message you're receiving right now, this experience you're having as these words land in your consciousness, this conversation you're having with yourself about who you really are and what you're truly capable of, this is that spark. Can you feel it? That warmth beginning to spread in your chest, that quickening of your pulse, that sense of possibility starting to crack through the shell of resignation you've been carrying. That's the fire responding to the spark. That's your power recognizing itself, waking up, preparing to burn away everything that's been holding you back. And once this fire is reignited, it doesn't matter how long it's been dormant. It remembers what it's capable of. It knows its own strength, and it will grow steadily and inevitably until it transforms every aspect of your existence. Now let me show you how this internal fire relates to the external reality you experience. Visualize yourself standing before a completely calm lake, the surface so still it could be glass. There's not a ripple, not a wave, not the slightest disturbance. The water acts as a perfect mirror, reflecting the sky above, the trees surrounding it, and most importantly, reflecting you exactly as you are in this moment. This lake represents your reality, the physical world you experience, the circumstances and situations that make up your daily life. And here's the profound truth this visualization reveals. Your reality will always reflect your internal vibration with perfect accuracy. The lake doesn't lie. It can't show you something that isn't there. It simply mirrors what is. If your internal vibration is chaos, your external reality will be chaotic. If your internal vibration is scarcity, your external reality will demonstrate lack. If your internal vibration is doubt, your external reality will provide endless reasons to doubt. The lake shows exactly what you're broadcasting from within. But notice something powerful about this lake. You can change your reflection by moving the energy. Throw a stone into the water and watch the ripples spread outward, transforming the entire surface. The stone represents your intentional shift in consciousness, your decision to change your internal state, your choice to elevate your vibration. And the ripples represent how that internal change spreads outward, affecting every area of your reality, transforming the reflection the lake shows you. When you shift your internal energy from fear to faith, from scarcity to abundance, from limitation to possibility, you're throwing that stone into the lake. And even though the change might seem small at first, even though the initial ripple might appear insignificant, it spreads, it grows, it transforms the entire surface until what you see reflected back is completely different from what was there before. Your reality reorganizes itself to match your new vibration, to mirror your elevated consciousness, to reflect the truth of who you've become. Let me reveal the practical methods for throwing that stone and creating ripples that transform everything. If you're ready to change what your reality reflects back to you, write in the comments, "I'm transforming my reflection." Revealing these practical methods requires first understanding something that will save you from abandoning the process right when it's working. As you begin to shift your internal energy, as you start throwing those stones into the lake of your reality, something unexpected happens. Resistance appears, And not just mild discomfort, but sometimes intense pushback that makes you question everything you're doing. Doubts flood your mind. Fear intensifies. Old patterns seem to strengthen rather than weaken. And most people, when they hit this resistance, think they're doing something wrong. They interpret it as a sign that the transformation isn't working, that they should give up, that they were foolish to believe change was possible. But here's the truth you need to understand with absolute clarity. When resistance appears, it doesn't mean transformation has failed. It means transformation has already begun. Resistance is not a sign of regression. It's evidence of advancement. It's the clearest, most undeniable sign that the old you is losing strength while the new you expands. Think about it like this. When you start building muscle, your body doesn't respond with comfort and ease. It responds with soreness, with fatigue, with signals that something challenging is happening. That discomfort isn't your body breaking down. It's your body adapting, growing stronger, becoming more capable. The same principle applies to your identity transformation. The resistance you feel is your old programming, fighting to maintain control. Your inherited limitations, trying to keep you in familiar territory, your fear attempting to protect you from the unknown. But that fight, that struggle, that tension you're experiencing is actually proof that you're winning. The old structures are weakening, the new identity is taking hold, and every moment you push through the resistance rather than surrendering to it, you strengthen the new and weaken the old. This is where trusting yourself becomes absolutely essential, and it's also where most people have the hardest time. You've spent years, maybe decades, learning to distrust yourself. You've made mistakes that taught you to second-guess your judgment. You've followed your intuition only to have it seem like it led you astray. You've been conditioned by society, by education, by well-meaning people around you to ignore your inner knowing and rely on external authority, logic, proof, validation from others. But here's what you need to understand at the deepest level. Your soul always knows the path toward your wealth. Always. It's connected to a wisdom far beyond what your conscious mind can access. It sees the bigger picture, understands the timing, recognizes the opportunities that align with your highest good. Your soul has never been confused about your capacity for abundance. The mind is what gets lost, tangled up in fear and doubt and limiting beliefs, disconnected from the truth of what's possible. But something is shifting now. Your mind is beginning to remember. It's like a radio that's been stuck on static, finally starting to clear, the signal coming through with increasing strength and clarity. Your mind is reprogramming itself, releasing the old codes that kept you small and installing new ones that support your expansion. It's adjusting to the true signal, the one your soul has been broadcasting all along, the one that says you're meant for abundance, you're worthy of prosperity, you're capable of multiplying wealth beyond what you've previously imagined. And as this reprogramming happens, as your mind aligns more and more with your soul's knowing, you begin to trust yourself in a way you never have before. You start making decisions from that inner guidance rather than from fear or external pressure. You follow hunches that don't make logical sense but feel deeply right. You take actions that seem risky to others but feel perfectly aligned to you. This trust, this growing confidence in your own internal compass, this is the real turning point in your wealth multiplication journey, because when you trust yourself, you stop looking outside for permission, validation, or approval. You stop waiting for someone else to tell you you're ready or give you the green light. You recognize that you are the authority on your own life, the creator of your own destiny, the one who decides what's possible and what's not. And that recognition, that reclamation of your own power, creates an energetic shift so profound that your entire reality must reorganize to accommodate it. Let me show you how to deepen this trust and use it to accelerate your wealth manifestation exponentially. If you're learning to trust your inner guidance above all else, write in the comments, I trust my soul's wisdom. Deepening this trust and using it to accelerate your wealth manifestation brings us to the most critical alignment of all. Everything we've talked about, every insight, every shift, every transformation, it all converges at this single point. Abundance arrives when your vibration stops contradicting your desire. Read that again slowly, because most people spend their entire lives in this contradiction without ever recognizing it. They desire wealth while vibrating at the frequency of scarcity. They want abundance while feeling unworthy of receiving it. They dream of prosperity while believing deep down that it's not really meant for them. And this contradiction, this split between what they want and what they're energetically broadcasting, creates a static that blocks the flow completely. It's like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. You might move forward slightly, but you'll never build real momentum, never reach the speed you're capable of, never arrive at the destination you're aiming for. But something profound is happening in you right now. You're no longer caught in that contradiction. You no longer think one thing consciously while feeling something completely different unconsciously. Your desire and your identity are beginning to unite, coming together like two rivers merging into one powerful stream. What you want and who you are becoming are finally speaking the same language, vibrating at the same frequency, moving in the same direction. Your intention and your energy are walking together now. When you say you want wealth, your energy agrees rather than sabotaging. When you claim abundance, your vibration supports that claim rather than undermining it. When you take action toward prosperity, your internal state matches that external movement rather than creating resistance. This alignment is what creates the opening, the channel, the pathway through which wealth can flow into your experience with increasing speed and volume. And this brings us to the final revelation, the ultimate truth that completes your transformation. Everything you are and everything you do from this point forward multiplies wealth and abundance in your life and in the world around you. Not because you're forcing it, not because you're manipulating circumstances, not because you're working yourself to exhaustion, simply because you've become the person who naturally attracts it, who inevitably creates it, who automatically multiplies it. You are already the point of attraction. This isn't something you need to become someday in the future. You are it right now, in this present moment. Your transformation has already occurred at the level of consciousness. Your identity has already shifted into alignment. Your vibration has already elevated to match the frequency of abundance. You are already the magnet, powerfully drawing toward yourself everything that matches your new energetic signature. Everything else from this point on is consequence. The money that flows to you is a consequence of your magnetic identity. The opportunities that appear are a consequence of your elevated vibration. The resources that become available are a consequence of your aligned consciousness. The wealth that multiplies in your experience is simply the physical manifestation of what you've already created internally. You don't need to chase it, force it, or desperately grasp for it. You simply need to maintain your alignment, hold your frequency steady, and allow the natural magnetism to do what magnetism does. This is your moment of complete integration, where everything you've learned, every insight you've gained, every shift you've made comes together into one unified field of creative power. You're no longer the person who was searching for the answer. You've become the answer. You're no longer seeking abundance from a place of lack. You are abundance, expressing itself through human form. And now the final step is to seal this transformation, to anchor it so deeply in your consciousness that it becomes permanent, irreversible, the foundation upon which the rest of your prosperous life will be built. If you can feel this truth settling into your bones, if you recognize yourself as the magnet you've always been, write in the comments with absolute conviction, I am already abundance. Deepening this trust and using it to accelerate your wealth manifestation brings us to the most critical alignment of all. Everything we've talked about, every insight, every shift, every transformation, it all converges at this single point. Abundance arrives when your vibration stops contradicting your desire. Read that again slowly, because most people spend their entire lives in this contradiction without ever recognizing it. They desire wealth while vibrating at the frequency of scarcity. They want abundance while feeling unworthy of receiving it. They dream of prosperity while believing deep down that it's not really meant for them. And this contradiction, this split between what they want and what they're energetically broadcasting, creates a static that blocks the flow completely. It's like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. You might move forward slightly, but you'll never build real momentum, never reach the speed you're capable of, never arrive at the destination you're aiming for. But something profound is happening in you. Right now, you're no longer caught in that contradiction. You no longer think one thing consciously while feeling something completely different unconsciously. Your desire and your identity are beginning to unite, coming together like two rivers merging into one powerful stream. What you want and who you are becoming are finally speaking the same language, vibrating at the same frequency, moving in the same direction. Your intention and your energy are walking together now. When you say you want wealth, your energy agrees rather than sabotaging. When you claim abundance, your vibration supports that claim rather than undermining it. When you take action toward prosperity, your internal state matches that external movement rather than creating resistance. This alignment is what creates the opening, the channel, the pathway through which wealth can flow into your experience with increasing speed and volume. And this brings us to the final revelation, the ultimate truth that completes your transformation. Everything you are and everything you do from this point forward multiplies wealth and abundance in your life and in the world around you, not because you're forcing it, not because you're manipulating circumstances, not because you're working yourself to exhaustion, simply because you've become the person who naturally attracts it, who inevitably creates it, who automatically multiplies it. You are already the point of attraction. This isn't something you need to become someday. In the future, you are it right now in this present moment. Your transformation has already occurred at the level of consciousness. Your identity has already shifted into alignment. Your vibration has already elevated to match the frequency of abundance. You are already the magnet, powerfully drawing toward yourself everything that matches your new energetic signature. Everything else from this point on is consequence. The money that flows to you is a consequence of your magnetic identity. The opportunities that appear are a consequence of your elevated vibration. The resources that become available are a consequence of your aligned consciousness. The wealth that multiplies in your experience is simply the physical manifestation of what you've already created internally. You don't need to chase it, force it, or desperately grasp for it. You simply need to maintain your alignment, hold your frequency steady, and allow the natural magnetism to do what magnetism does. This is your moment of complete integration, where everything you've learned, every insight you've gained, every shift you've made, comes together into one unified field of creative power. You're no longer the person who was searching for the answer. You've become the answer. You're no longer seeking abundance from a place of lack. You are abundance, expressing itself through human form. And now, the final step is to seal this transformation, to anchor it so deeply in your consciousness that it becomes permanent, irreversible, the foundation upon which the rest of your prosperous life will be built. If you can feel this truth settling into your bones, if you recognize yourself as the magnet you've always been, write in the comments with absolute conviction, "I am already abundance."